YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to another Power Rangers discussion video. This is sort of springboarding off my what if videos. My last one is, my last two were about, what if Power Rangers never existed, and, could Sentai and Kamen Rider find more success, basically in the West, without Power Rangers? And I got another interesting suggestion on there. Again, I don't have the name off the top of my head, but I'll put it up there, which was, how would you restore Power Rangers' reputation? Because those videos definitely talked a lot about, Power Rangers' reputation holding Toku back, and the positives and negative of Power Rangers' existence on Toku. And I got a lot of good suggestions on those videos. There's a couple I might save for later, but also it was getting a little crazy. It's what if Power Rangers existed at the time the world was ruled by dinosaurs? It's you could do what ifs for everything. There's a couple I made note of, but I don't want to go crazy with these. But I thought this was an interesting topic, and it will cover a lot of ground I've talked about before. I think that there's, at least in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion just based on my observations, what I think would work. I didn't run some sort of algorithm or run a poll of what I think would work or anything like that. Just based off my observations of the way people perceive PR and what PR has done in the last few years. So I think that there's two main ways that could have and could possibly work. The first one I want to mention, though, before I get to those two, is just the straightforward reboot, which we were supposed to be doing with Hasbro before they put the kibosh on it. I do think that there is a chance that you could come out with a reboot show like 2017, I know people are going to be like, but it failed. I'm just saying for an example. Calm down. And I'm talking to me when I say that too. But you know what I mean. Something like that. I do think that there's a chance that something like that could restore its reputation. I do think those casual fans that did watch the 2017 movie and like it actually saw that PR could be something more than the cheesy trash they remembered from the 90s. Because there was casuals that watched it. It wasn't like nobody watched it. I know it failed. But the casuals that did see it definitely seemed to like it. So I do think that there is a chance, but it's very small. I think that's, at least at this moment in time, I think it's a very uphill battle. Honestly, I think any approach PR would take to sort of, fix its reputation would be an uphill battle. But I think at the least, especially this current moment in time, is one of the biggest uphill battles. Because right now, you have a saturation of superhero content. There's bigger and better names out there, way more superior content to watch. It would just be white noise, especially since right now there's, talk of a little bit of the fatigue and all that stuff, and just there's too much to watch. And again, just dropping a D-list property in there when you have Marvel and DC and the boys and all those fighting for your attention, it would just be a tough time. Not to mention, then you always get those oh, reboot, you're gonna ruin the original. But PR is in a weird space because it doesn't have a revered original. I mean, yes, MMPR is held up on a pedestal to the casuals, but it's not something like the original Ghostbusters or the Goonies. I don't know, I'm picking all 80s stuff. But you know what I mean? It's not something where there's a cult classic or a cultural classic movie that's good that they're going to do a reboot of. It's something that people have fond memories on, but mostly look down on. So it's in a weird position where it's there's nowhere to go but up. So, but people are usually against reboots. That's a groupthink thing that people decided on a long time ago. So I think, unfortunately, the oversaturation currently, especially at this time, and the kind of anti-reboot, oh, you're just going to try to make it a gritty reboot. I'm but you trash it for what it is. What do you want? Do you want it to be a little bit better, or do you want I don't know. Regardless, I think that's a bad option. At least right now. Again, I don't think it's impossible. It just would have to have so many circumstances line up to knock that 5% that it would happen. Obviously, again, before I get to the other two that I think would be successful, there's obviously just bringing back Sentai adaptations as they were. I think that there's less than 1% chance that would repair Power Rangers' reputation. That would just continue to prove the general audience right about their take on Power Rangers. So the two ways I think it could work is one, which I brought up before, which is the main one, is I really do think animated could work. People always bring up adapting Shattered Grid. I would love to see animated movies based on Shattered Grid and the comics, sort of similar to the way DC will adapt their storylines. But it's do we only have adaptions? What about we do, inspired by the idea of Boom, an MMPR series that has cool and better comic book-like stories, but you don't always have to adapt something. And that brings back my frustration with source material discussions, because how do you do it without source material? Where do you think the source material came from? Someone just wrote it out of thin air. So I wouldn't mind seeing them adapt it, but I would love for them to just do something new. Again, inspired by the style of the Boom comics, but don't adapt anything. Just do your own thing. But anyway, that doesn't matter how they do it. That's just my personal opinion. They can adapt Shattered Grid, they can not adapt it, whatever. I think an animated series in the style of Voltron, could do very well. There's someone on Twitter that's always making these, I'm sorry I can't remember their name, that's always making these really cool animated intros. They made an animated PR intro. They did one for Beetleborgs, which was really awesome. And that always gets a lot of positive response. So I think that in a perfect world, just picture the Voltron style, and let's not talk about the writing or your thoughts or whatever, that doesn't matter. I'm just saying, if you had something that looked like Voltron and was fairly well done, I think that there's a chance that would catch some eyeballs. I don't think it would lead you to mainstream success, but I think it would go a long way to having people see Power Rangers as something that could be cool and unique and give you a little bit of a growing audience. Not huge, but I think that that could be something because it takes you away from that live action, splicing in Japanese footage format that makes it look cheap. That's often, a shorthand for of poor quality. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people say that looks like Power Rangers, it looks like Power Rangers. To me, it looks like crap. If you do it in animated and it looks cool in a cool style, because I think I like the style of Ultron. I liked the way that the human characters looked. I liked the way that the robots worked. I liked the way that all looked. Like, setting aside my thoughts, where I liked the series overall. I mean, I have my issues with it, but I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think they needed to switch so that the lion mantles lined it up with the original series. I liked that they were different, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is just the look and style of it would immediately take you out from that cheap tokusatsu look that people don't like, and I think that would be possible. Again, I don't think it would be gangbusters, but I think it would be something. So I think that's a possibility. Now, the other one is something that I think is kind of increasing. Oh, also, actually, before I get to that, I think if you did want to adapt something, the MMPR return story that Amy Jo Johnson did, I think could be a really good one. If you did that, especially like as a one-off movie, maybe leading to a series about fighting the next generation, I think that premise could be unique. I know I said don't adapt it, I'm just saying it doesn't matter what I want. I would want something new, but I just think animated, whether you're adapting an existing story or not, could work. I think it has greater chances than a straightforward, mature reboot. Anyway, the other one is something that I think is increasingly unlikely, which I brought up before and I did a whole video on it, which effectively would be a Cobra Kai-esque live action show. But you would have to up the visuals from Once and Always. You'd have to make it look better. But just the idea being something that hits those nostalgia chords, gives you some updates on the past characters, but also ushers in a new generation. I know Cobra Kai is not perfect. There's a lot of, discourse, but a lot of people are like, oh, that latest season wasn't good. But overall, it did a pretty good job. It's one of the best things I've seen in terms of balancing the nostalgia as well as new characters and crazily looping in almost every movie. I mean, we haven't seen Hilary Swank yet, but you know what I mean. I just think that something like that could have worked if they did it right. I think it could have worked better if we had people like JDF available. Unfortunately after his passing, that's not possible anymore, but I think that if they were able to do this before JDF passed, Austin St. John before he stole money from a bank or whatever he did, I don't know, but I think that you could still get Zach and Kimberly and Billy in there, but I think that it definitely would have brought more eyeballs in if you would have had Tommy. And I think that again you'd have to nail the visual style in a way that didn't look so bad. But I do think that that would be the best live action option in terms of the safest one. Just because you do, like I said, if you do that nostalgia thing, but mixing it with a little bit new, that would be harder, I think. I think that would be a lot harder. But I think, in my opinion, in terms of the scale of likelihood of something, repairing PR's reputation in any form, it would be something animated, a Cobra Kai-esque show, and then, a full reboot, and then at the bottom is Sentai Adaptations. Again, Sentai Adaptations would make the hardcore fans happy, but that's going to be just hearing a pin drop in a haystack to the general audience. So, and that's just my opinion. Again, I think the Cobra Kai thing is kind of a long shot, but I just think the approach, in theory, could work because, again, MMPR is the most recognizable for people. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think could be done to repair PR's reputation in the comments, as always. Again, I don't think this would mean PR would suddenly become a juggernaut and be up there along the names of Transformers or Marvel or Star Wars, but it definitely, could be something that could at least make it something that more general audiences could enjoy. But until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.